Well, hey y'all, happy Monday. So today we're gonna do something that I have been wanting to do with you for a long time, and it's something that I personally needed to do for a long time, and that's make some salve. This salve has been a recipe that a lot of different people pass around in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I took a class back when I had Maisie in the belly to learn how to make this salve, and it's phenomenal. It's a cure-all in my opinion, and when we don't have it, we really miss it. And so I'm getting more and more little reasons from ant bites to chafing amongst many of us. So that's given me a reason to move forward. And I've talked many times about when we were at the other house and I was growing calendula, that one day I would talk to you about making salves and making use of your calendula. And calendula is one of the ingredients in this salve. So I'm going to tell you, again, this salve is like a super salve. Burns, bites, bruises. When the girls were little, they could ding their head and I could watch the knot well up and I could rub this salve into it and watch it just kind of go right back down. So it's phenomenal for you can test it. I've seen people like have a spider bite and the swelling be this big, and they put salve just in the middle of it, and that part looked dramatically different from the rest. When we learn a little bit more about the herbs, and I'm going to talk about those mostly once I start adding them into making the salve. But there's some really cool things to know, and there's a rapid cell regenerator. That's one of the ingredients in here. And so because that ingredient is present, sometimes when you put it on a burn especially, it can heal so fast that it hurts more for a minute than it did when it first got burned. But then that burn won't ever form a blister. It will heal so beautifully. And another thing about that herb is because it's so strong, you don't ever want to put this salve on a deep wound. I've got a little scar in my hand here from, again, when Maisie was in the belly. I stuck a knife through an avocado and stabbed myself pretty good. And I used that salve on it, and I shouldn't have, because the outside of my wound healed and it took a lot longer for the inside of the wound to heal. So this is more again for bruises, bug bites, scrapes, external use only. And if you're pregnant or nursing, definitely consult with a physician. Even though I can tell you that this is great for diaper rashes and soreness from nursing. So there's so many uses for this salve. So once you get it in your little apothecary, I promise you're always going to have it. So let's get to what the ingredients are. So I've already told you that my calendula is an ingredient, and I'm also going to use calendula to show you two different methods today, because we're going to do this, we're going to make this salve in what's kind of known as a fast method, of a way of bringing down all of the amazing properties of the herbs into olive oil. We're going to do that real slowly. So I said fast, but we're doing it real slowly on the stove. A truly slow way to do it, because that's fast, is we're going to set some up in a jar, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to show you two different ways that you can release the properties of these herbs and utilize them for a couple of different things. So calendula is one of the ingredients. Another ingredient is plantain leaf, and this is a weed of all kinds. Where I'm in Arkansas, if you don't spray your grass for weeds, you're gonna have plantain in your yard, and it's awesome by itself for bug bites, especially old southern me. Especially you can make a quick poultice by just pulling off some leaves from a plantain, not the banana, and just like chewing it up in your mouth and kind of getting it all wet and sticky, and then sticking that on a bug bite, boom, you've got a little remedy. So I'm really showing my roots here, but I also really want to get into more of this part of myself with you. And I forgot to mention, we're inside today because it's hot and I don't got a lot going on in my garden. And my dang old corn was looking good. Then the dang old birds got in there somehow or another, and they knocked one side of the bird thing down, and then the blah. So some of my corn got knocked down. So I've got to replant my corn, and it's hot. Okay, so we're inside. We're gardening inside today. So we've got plantain and calendula, and then wormwood. And then the last one, and this is the mega fighter here. This is Comfrey Leaf. And so those are our basic herbs that we're going to use. And then the other properties, like I said, we're going to use organic olive oil to bring down the medicinal properties of the herbs. And then we're going to use beeswax, raw beeswax, to make it stand up, if you will, because once we get all the properties into the oil's great, but even my kids at certain times in their life don't like the greasy feeling of this. So that's why we put it with the beeswax, so it actually becomes a salve that is, you know, is kind of, it's a solid then, it's not just an oil. And then we're also, I forgot to bring out the vitamin E oil and a little bit of lavender. So we're gonna use vitamin E oil as a preservative, because the only thing that's really gonna go bad in this salve is over, like after a year, if you've still got salve around, then your olive oil is gonna start to get a little rancid. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways to make salves. There's a lot of different ways to make them stand up. You could use jojoba or some shea, different things like that. And then because I don't mind the smell, I think the herby smell is amazing, but some of my children don't. So you'll see at the end, I'm gonna bring in a little bit of lavender essential oil, and that's not really gonna bring a lot of the lavender properties into the oil. It's really going to be scenting the oil for my more finicky salve users in the house. So the first thing I have to do to get going for this is I usually start by grinding up all of my herbs. Now these herbs I got from Mountain Rose Herbs. I love them, and they came for the most part already ground up. I bought them obviously before where they weren't, so you have to kind of go through the process. I've got oh, it's right here. I've got just like a coffee grinder, don't drink coffee at all, bought it specifically to make salve. And if you hear that flapping, it's little bunny foo-foo over in the corner. She got a new litter box today, so she really likes to ruck it up when she gets it. And then you can get comfrey as the leaf or as the root. And I've never used it as a root. I always just use it as the leaf. But again, I got those from Mountain Rose Herb. When I ordered, they didn't have any calendula. And I did want to just kind of have a little braggy moment. Now, I grew this calendula, and I bought this calendula. Notice the color. So I can't wait to plant more calendula in my yard. So my method here, and this is going to make a pretty big batch. And so if we took the time and did the math, we could figure out a way for you to make this in smaller batches. But I'm going to make a pretty good sized batch of it. That way I've got some to share. I've got enough to put in almost every room of the house and enough to share. So I'm going to be using an ounce of calendula, an ounce of plantain, an ounce of wormwood, and then I'm going to use 2 ounces of the comfrey. And I'm going to use 5 cups of olive oil. So that's pretty much how you would figure out your oil or your herb to oil ratio, is kind of 1 to 1. So for every ounce of herb I'm using, I'm going to use an ounce of olive oil, which will give me 5 cups. And then when I learned to make this, I was living in Arkansas. So the way I was originally taught is that you use 3 ounces of beeswax, and I've made it in Arkansas, and that works perfectly fine. But there's something about Arizona and the lack of humidity. It just doesn't ever seem to set up for me correctly if I only use 3 ounces. So if you're here, you might want to follow this guideline. If you live somewhere more humid, that's what I think it has to do with. That's the only thing I can explain. But if you live somewhere, I'm laughing at her. If you live somewhere more humid, then you might just stick to the 3 ounces. But I'm probably going to use 4 maybe, and if it doesn't come out 4, it's a little bit more than 4. I'm going to use that because I don't like when the middle of it is more oil than it is actually kind of standing up as salve. So I'm going to just check here real quick. And another thing is I've got some just unbleached muslin. This is what I'm going to use to strain all the oil from the herbs once we get done. And then I've just got some 4-ounce jelly jars, and I don't have a dishwasher now. These are also brand new. So if they weren't brand new and I had a dishwasher, and if they weren't brand new, I'd find some way to do it, to disinfect them. So today, before I start, I'm just gonna wipe these out with a little bit of alcohol, just as a double backup, because we should think about this as medicine. So, and along with that, I always try to hold a really pleasant place of blessings and good thoughts as I make salve, because again, I look at it as a form of medicine. So I've got to grind up this calendula, and I'm going to weigh out my herbs, and then I'm going to weigh out how much beeswax. I'm basically going to get everything set up, and then I'm going to bring you into the kitchen once I get everything going, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the different properties or the different cool things about the herbs that we're going to use. And then that it's going to be on the stove for about an hour, so I'm not going to make you sit through that. And then I'll kind of bring you back in at the end, which I think is one of the coolest parts, and it's a little wild. So stick around, and even if you kind of have to watch this in different segments, I think it's worth it. So I'll catch up with you in a minute when we're in the kitchen. Okay, so I went ahead and got the herbs set up in the pot here, and I got the olive oil obviously going too. And this is a brand new stove for us, so I know that it gets really hot. So I'm gonna start this out really slow, because what you want to do is you want to bring it up to temperature, and kind of get it to where you can see right now. See how there's just like little bitty bubbles? You don't want it hotter than that. And for me on my stove right now, that's a 4. And if the bubbles start to get any bigger than they are right now, if you can see that, then I'm gonna start turning it down. So once I get to a real just slow barely tiny bubbles, I want to emphasize that, then that's when I'm going to set my timer for an hour. So this is what I mean about a real slow pull down of the properties. And I'm going to try not to stir it very much, because every time I do, I'm going to kind of disrupt the temperature, but there's also that desire to do that. So now to kind of back up and take a look at the rest of our situation. Now, I don't have a doubled broiler, and if you did, you would want it to be only for making salve, because this is where I'm going to heat up my wax. And it'll forever, I can't find my wax one of these, so I have to get another one. So I'm going to destroy this one, because it's going to be impossible to get everything out. I'm going to fill this up with water and get it boiling, or about the same temperature as the oil over here, about 30 minutes after I get this all good and going. And I got my jars done. And then also over here in this jar, this is the one that I'm going to set up with you to do a truly slow pull down. So this is it's got a tablespoon of comfrey in it, and the rest of it is calendula. And that's where I'll kind of talk about some of the properties that we're finding here. So calendula is obviously really good for the skin. It's got anti-inflammatory and I think fungal or something like that properties in it. It also helps like tighten your skin and build back collagen. So in the salve, it's also kind of a way to look at it as this is the part that's going to help heal the skin after we've damaged it or we've got some hurt to it. And then, so it's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties that help protect and rebuild collagen elastin. So I'm actually looking to use this right here once we set it up. So we're going to set it up, we're going to make sure we get all the bubbles out, and I'll probably need to get a chopstick or something and kind of swish it around. We're going to get it as filled up with oil and get everything worked around. Then we're going to put it in a paper bag. We're going to put it in a warm spot for about 2 weeks. And then we're going to strain this off, and I'm going to look into making a face product with this, or just something for my own face. So then we've also got the comfrey in there. Now comfrey's been used for about 2,000 years. I don't know what I did with my comfrey. It's been used for about 2,000 years to by the Japanese. The Native Americans also called it bone knit because it can do that. It's that strong. It's good at healing muscles. Some Europeans use it for arthritis and different things like that. You've got to be careful, just like with any herbs, about taking them and how much you use them, because comfrey's so strong that it can affect your liver. Now, the fiery thing, or the property that I love the most about comfrey, I apologize, is the allantoin in it. Now that's what causes the rapid cell regeneration that causes you to heal so quickly. So again, this salve is not for a deep wound. You don't want to put this on anything that is going to heal too quickly. And then it's got what is it, like rosmarinic? I think that's how you say it. It's kind of like a rosmarinic acid, also found in rosemary and stuff like that, but that helps relieve pain and inflammation. And so I'm hoping to make myself some real good skin product here to supplement what I already do. So I'm going to put the lid on this, and like I said, I'm going to get us a brown paper bag out, and then we'll put this in a window. And now we're going to come back over here, and we're getting a little too bubbly for my taste. So I'm going to kick it down to a 3 when I really believe that my end number here is probably going to be in between 2 and low. So just a couple more minutes, and I'm probably going to find a settling temperature, and then I'll catch back up with you when I'm about to combine everything and bring it together and actually make the salve. Oh, sorry, but we didn't talk about wormwood. Wormwood is, again, it's great for skin. It's great for skin repair. And plantain, like I said, anti-inflammatory, antiviral. I think it's antiviral also. And, great for stings and bites. Let's see. It is germicidal. It's got antibacterial properties, and it's good for getting rid of acne. It's smooth skin, great for sunburns. And then wormwood, a lot of people have used wormwood directly on the skin for osteoarthritis. It's great for healing wounds and insect bites, and it's used in some different things like soaps and cosmetics. Again, just want to be mindful. You can't really find this in your local apothecaries because it's that strong, kind of along the same lines with comfrey. So that's why you might want to get it from Mountain Rose Herbs. So I'll see you in a minute. So my timer's set, and I did just want to jump back on and say that the reason why this whole thing with the bubbles and the method of going slow with it is obviously so that you don't burn the oil. You burn the oil, you're going to burn the herbs, and you're going to destroy all the medicinal properties. So low and slow when you're doing it on the stove and trying to extract oils or properties from something. Even if you're doing garlic, like one day if you guys are interested, I make a good garlic drop remedy for earaches and stuff. So that's the point, though. That's the reason why we want just barely any little bubbles popping up, because then we're just taking a real slow approach to bringing down all the medicinal properties. Now I've got my beeswax going, and it's a little slow-mo, but it's getting there. And I've got just about 12 more minutes on my oil. So maybe I should have gotten my beeswax going sooner, but it always seems like my beeswax is just cooking forever when I start them all at the same time. But we still have a couple of processes. So at 12 minutes, we're going to strain this through the muslin into this container here. And in the middle of that, I'm going to get a pot of water going. Because I need to bring, once the oil is strained and it's in here, I need to bring it back up to temperature so that it'll match the temperature that this is, because if one is cooler than the other, then they're not gonna dance well together. So we'll get these equaled back out and just kind of show you pieces so it doesn't get too crazy watching this all go down. But it's pretty cool watching it melt and swirling it around. I had the water up just a little too high just a second ago, so it really started bubbling, because we don't want it to bubble where water gets up in there, so I still might turn it down to like a 6. For me, it's just tedious because I have to stay here with it, but I don't mind because I'm making love. Okay, things got a little hectic there at the very end, so I apologize for not taking you through the very last steps. My husband came in and basically we strained the oil, brought the oil up to like a temperature that I could just barely touch it, and then we added the beeswax and a little bit of vitamin E oil. It usually calls for 3 capsules, but I can't find my capsules, so my mom had some in a bottle, so I just poured what was about that in there. So they're still just a tad bit warm, but otherwise it's something that got on the edges. It's set up really nicely already for me. There's a little dimple there that makes me wonder if maybe, even though I used 4.5 ounces of beeswax, maybe I needed more. But this is the final product, and I did go along and just add some lavender oil after I'd poured them in there. It's just a more efficient way to me to do it. But there you are, and I look forward to the questions that you have in the comments, and I hope this was worth watching. Have a great day.